This is the color scheme that I use for my videos. Make sure you copy down the black.
Question number 11 was, I think, for me personally, the hardest question of this whole thing, and maybe that's because I haven't taught geometry in a while, but I think it's incredibly difficult to set up and think about. The first thing that I did when I saw this problem was I looked at this expression. I said, this is almost all of the different, like there's six variables here, and we've got 4 of them already. I'll bet we could somehow subtract these 2 from these, like set up all 3 of these, x, y, z, the 3 on the top, w, u, t, the 3 on the bottom, and subtract these 2 and get the 2 leftovers. So basically, that's what I did. I saw that all 3 of them have got to equal, these 3 the top 3 have got to equal the bottom 3, and then you subtract out the x plus y, you subtract out the u plus w, and you get z equals t. So z equals t, and that is statement number 3. So if I know statement 3 is going to be true, then I've eliminated a. It can't be a. Then I took this statement again, the x plus y and u plus w, and I started with this, and then I realized quickly that y and u are vertical angles, so therefore I could subtract them both out. They've got to be equal to each other. And so then I got the leftovers were x and w. Well, so therefore I knew that x equals w. That's not here, but I did know that x is equal to t. These are vertical angles, and w is equal to z. Those are also vertical angles. And so, wait a minute. This x is equal to this z. I mean, x is equal to w. We got that. And by vertical angles, it's also equal to z. So x equals z. That's statement number 1. That doesn't help us. It eliminates c. It does eliminate c, and so we've got also a eliminated. But really, I was choosing between b and d, and that was the hardest part for me. You've got to really be able to eliminate. If in order to get the correct answer of B, you've got to say that answer of choice 2 is definitely false. It's not always going to be true. And trying to figure that out is a different line of thinking. Like these 2 lines of thinking were all constructed to show that something is true. But how do you disprove something? How do you show that something is false? Well, you've got to come up with a counterexample. So what I did was I came up with some numbers. I first put 61 here. Like, okay, so there are 6 angles right here, and so then if they were all equal to each other, like if d were true, then they would all have 60. Oh, by the way, I actually tried to figure out. I tried to show that that statement number 2 was true, and I couldn't. So then, after a while, what I did was I just said, well, maybe if I can't figure out that it's true, then maybe it's false. And that would actually be supported by answer choice B. So let me go ahead. Instead of trying to prove that 2 is true, maybe it's not true. So let me see if I can establish that it's false. So what I did was I started off looking at the fact that there's 6 angles, and so if they were all equally spaced, then that would be like that would be 60 degrees each of them. So I'm just going to say that this one is 61. I started off here and I just arbitrarily said, well, all right, you're 61. And if I know z is equal to t, then this would also be 61, and then x. Basically, from this statement, I said, well, these have all got to be 61. And so therefore, when you subtract all that from 360, like there's 1, 2, 3, 4 additional angles, this would become 58 and 58. So then I filled in 58 and 58, and I came up with a picture. Well, wait a minute. If that's true, there's no statement that says that x has got to equal to y, or that w has got to equal to u, or that u has got to equal t. So actually, by choosing this to be 61, I was able to see that these are all true, and this is all 58 and 58. Actually, it's easier to, instead of adding up to 360, you could just say this is like 180 on the top. 61 plus 58 is 180. So I was able to construct a scenario in which answer choice 2 was not true, y does not necessarily have to equal w. So because of this line of logic here, I've constructed a counterexample. So therefore, answer choice 2 does not necessarily need to be true. It could be true, but it isn't always true based on this given information. So that's why I eliminated D and was able to choose B. The way that this is set up, you've got to confirm that 1 is true, that 2 is not necessarily true, like it could be false, and 3 is definitely true. And that's a lot of geometric reasoning, and that's why I think that this question is the hardest, at least for me personally. But it's something you can do, and it's something that it doesn't require anything more, no more understanding of geometry than, say, vertical angles and things adding up to 180 and 360. It's just that the logic is incredibly difficult.